Hi, everyone. This is Jessica with fulfilledandabundant.com. And today, Elisabeth is back with Seafarer Worldwide. So we just did our interview and then we started talking more. And I'm like, wait, this is good. We're just going to record our conversation. So this is part 2, a much more casual version of the other one that we just did. Okay, so can you back up and tell us about the rowing team that capsized? Because that's what so I just want to, and then we'll just keep talking wherever it goes.
Yeah, so the origin story of the Castaways program that we were talking about in part 1 is the teamwork survival program. We actually had a group of transatlantic rowers who came through our program in the early days, and they were setting out to row across the Atlantic Ocean, and they wanted to have a pre-trip survival course. So we put them in the life raft. We did the whole 7 steps of survival, and we actually had them spend the night in the life raft. So they were in their immersion suits. They had their survival kit with the biscuits and the packaged water, and they spent the night in the life raft, which, yes, is as horrible as it sounds. The floor actually inflates in the life raft, and so it does create a bit of a cushion, but it's cold up against the water, and the water moves. And so it's not very much fun. But it actually turned out to be a really good thing that they did that, because as they were doing their transatlantic rowing, their boat capsized and sunk, and they ended up spending, I think it was 3 days in a life raft before they were eventually rescued. So it ended up being a very good thing that they had that experience, and they knew how to deploy their life raft and survive in it in the open water until rescue came. So that was a fortuitous training exercise.
Yeah, I was saying how lucky for them, or unlucky. But it's a good thing that they had experience beforehand.
Yes, preparation is definitely key, for sure. If you can't prevent, at least prepare.
Right. And so I'm into preparing. So every once in a while I'll fantasize, and I think a lot of people do this, just like fantasize or daydream about worst case scenarios, and which I wouldn't call that a fantasy, but my mind takes over easily and just creates horrible situations for me. And then the other part of me, sometimes it feels a little bit like they're crazy, but the other part of me will step in and like, no, then I would do this, and then I could walk here, and right here would be a good spot to get off of the freeway, and the wall is a little bit lower here, and oh, that's what that door is for. So when there's walls on the freeway, probably about every 100 or 200 feet, there's a little door. I think it's like 3 foot by 5 foot. And I never noticed it until I was doing one of these daydreams, and I was like, oh, that's what the door is. So there's like a little ladder that you can climb up and push the wooden door over and climb out to the other side. And then different freeway scenario setups, a lot of time, new walls, not old walls, but new walls will have a break. So you'll see the wall overlap, and it looks like there's a gap. So that gap is meant for you to be able to walk through. So yeah, I don't know if that's a good or bad thing, but I'm into preparing. And or when I run into mistakes of like, oh, this sucked. Okay, well, from now on, I'm going to have an extra key here or an extra $20 here, or I'm going to have phone numbers. So yeah, I'm going to have phone numbers written down on paper. So if my cell phone breaks or somebody finds me unconscious, they can open my glove box and find all my most important phone numbers.
Yeah, no, that's really smart. One of the things that we teach in our maritime courses that it speaks directly to this, and I think that everybody should do, is having a go bag with phone numbers, prescription medications, an extra set of glasses, granola bars, food, water, like whatever it is that you think you'll need to just be able to grab and go in the case of emergency. Keep it in your car or by the door, wherever it's easy to grab and go. That's something that we teach in maritime that I think everybody should do for sure.
Yeah. So do you have a go bag?
I do have a go bag. Yep. Yeah, I keep a week's worth of medications. I have written down phone numbers, like you said. I keep we get the food and water rations in all of our life rafts that we launch. And they're terrible. It's really not yummy or delicious, but I know that it'll keep me alive in case of an emergency. And then I also keep, they're called thermal protective aids, and it's basically like a big space blanket in the shape of a human. And so I keep one of those in my go bag as well.
Nice. Good for you.
Thanks.
Yeah, I like to do that about once a month. I'll just like, okay, what could I improve on now?
Yeah.
No, sorry, one month a year I do that. So just like once a year, okay, emergency check-in, what needs to be updated? What can I do a little bit better? Yeah, so I live in California, and past 2 or 3 years, it feels like it's every year now, we had fires, and last year they lasted like 2 or 3 months from August to October, I think. It sucked. The air quality sucked, but I'm sure it's even worse for the people that are losing their homes, and that's horrible, and I wish it wouldn't happen, and my heart goes out to them. So everybody in the Bay Area in California had to be prepared to evacuate. And so I mapped out, like, I looked up, okay, if a fire happens and I can't drive for some reason, if my street gets blocked, or I don't know, what if my car doesn't work? Who knows? I Google mapped, like, I know the directions to walk to my mom's house, but I double checked, I Google mapped it. And so it would take 3 hours to walk there. And I was like, oh, awesome. I mean, not awesome, but awesome, because I know that I can walk there in less than a day. So that's a really good thing, even though she only lives the next town north.
No, that's important. Having shelter is key.
Yeah. And I think in a stressful situation, you want to be together with the people that you love to know that they're okay.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, mapping out a plan, I think, is a really good thing.
That's really important.
Yeah. And just like taking your course out. And then we were talking about, I was pointing out to her how powerful it would be to have couples take the course. The Castaway course is the one anybody can take.
The Castaway course is one anybody can take. Yeah. And just like you were saying, doing it as a couple to really solidify how do you react in an emergency, and doing these big emergencies together, like you were saying, will really kind of refine how the smaller things work out as well, and probably make the smaller things a lot smaller.
Yeah. So working on the plane is a really high stress job. And I liked it, but it's not for everybody. And when I'm around somebody that can't handle that pace of stress, they make me so mad. There's no nice way to say it. And so I think doing some kind of really high stress thing, even though it's not, well, even better that it's not a real scenario, that it's just simulated, you're breaking things apart a lot easier so that you can dissect it a lot easier, because an emergency situation, autopilot takes over. And like, do you know who the leader is? Do you know what your role as the follower is? If you're the leader, do you make decisions well, or do you stress out the other people? And so there's all these different things that get highlighted, and then you can talk about it and work it out. But and I also think doing high stress activities together, like traveling together, is high enough stress, or doing a course like this, or learning together, it also grows you closer. And then also, I think it kind of streamlines your communication a little bit, which improves your daily life.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, and you'll learn like what's important here and what isn't important. Like if you're in a situation where you're arguing about like A or B, then you can decide like, okay, well, A is what's really important here. Like we really need to find shelter. That's priority here versus arguing about what happened. That's not important right now, for example.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I would love to see a lot more couples do that, because I know some people that one of the people in the couples, several couples, one of the people don't react well to stressful situations and the other one does. And that would personally drive me absolutely nuts. Yeah. And also having defined roles in each certain scenarios, I think that's just so powerful.
Yeah, it really is. Well, and it really it makes things happen better. It makes things more smooth, more streamlined, and especially when you're talking about a survival situation where lives are literally on the line. And in the Castaways program, we're practicing this, right? We're preparing, we're practicing what we would do if this happened. It makes the stakes higher. So like, if you're talking about if lives are on the line, and then you apply these same things to like a trip to the grocery store, for example, it makes everything go a lot smoother in life.
Yeah, I agree. And okay, so I'm just curious, and I'm sorry to put you on the spot, but so as your company, do you guys talk about worst case scenario preparedness of like, if this happens, what am I going to do? What are you going to do? What are each of my employees going to do? Do you guys talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely. And another course that we do is crisis.
Uh-oh, you went, I don't know why you muted.
Sorry about that. I had a call come in and it muted my audio. So another course that we do is called Crisis Management and Human Behavior. And so that's very much about, what is my role in this situation? What is my role in this situation? And so we definitely have, what happens in a fire, what happens in man overboard situation? What happens, and what is my role in this emergency? What is your role in this emergency? And so everybody very much has a prescribed job in every situation. So we all know what happens when, and there's no guesswork involved in an emergency. Very much about preparedness.
Nice. And so can anybody take that course?
Yeah, absolutely. That course is specifically designed for passenger ships, for people who work on passenger ships, but it's open to anybody. And I highly recommend it for, anybody who is interested in human behavior, especially in a crisis. And, in the climate that we live in today, it seems like there's a lot of crises that happen all the time. And it really takes a lot of the guesswork out of what do I do? What's my role here? And what's happening with the other person as well, or the other people, in a crowd situation.
Nice. So do you guys talk about if someone gets some kind of trauma and then they become not functional? Do you talk about like that, just like sit down and do nothing?
Yeah. We talk about if somebody becomes injured. We talk about if multiple people become injured, if people are drunk, because this is based on a passenger ship, so there's alcohol involved. Multiple people are drunk, if there's a ship-wide event and everybody is kind of not themselves. What do you do if you're in a leadership position? What do you do if you're not in a leadership position? And where do you fall in the hierarchy of jobs?
And then do you touch on how to become a leader in any given situation? Like if you recognize that nobody is taking the lead and you feel confident enough, do you talk about like, this is how you take the lead in a situation?
Yes. Yeah. And we talk about how to assert leadership as well. So if nobody's taking the lead in a situation, how do you step up, and how do you assert yourself as a leadership role? How do you talk to the people around you? How do you present yourself? And how do you make sure that you're coming across as the leader, so that people don't just push you aside or ignore you? Because that's a pretty big thing to do, to step up as a leader if nobody else is doing it.
So do you have any like quick 1, 2, 3 tips if somebody happens to find themselves in some kind of emergency scenario and nobody is stepping up and taking the lead? What is something that a person that recognizes this could do to take the lead, to create safety and get as many people out of that situation as possible?
Yeah, so the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to talk in a firm, clear voice, and you're going to introduce yourself and your role. So I'm going to say, "Hi, I'm Elisabeth. I'm the director of operations, and I'm going to take care of you." And then you're going to tell them what to do. Okay, so Mrs. So-and-so, we're going to walk outside right now. And then you're going to take them outside. So let's say that this is somebody who, she wants to get her dog out of her stateroom or something, and she's not listening. But so by asserting yourself in a firm, clear voice, telling her who you are, and then telling her what you're going to do, and you're going to do this with her. You're not just saying, "Mrs. So-and-so, get out of here." She doesn't know who you are. You have to tell her who you are, and you tell her what to do, and then go with her. So those are, I think, my top 3 tips on asserting leadership in that situation.
And so why is going with her important?
Well, it's important because you have to actually make sure that the action happens, right? So if you just tell her and then walk away, um, that doesn't really that doesn't really do anything, right? She's just going to stand there and, wait for her dog and possibly go down with the ship. But if you walk out with her and then make sure that she gets to her lifeboat position, and then hand her off to the next person in leadership, that's where she needs to be. The next person can take care of her.
Thanks. I hope that you guys found that empowering. I find it empowering.
Good. I'm glad.
And well, thank you, Elisabeth. It was fun to continue the conversation, and let's tell everyone your website again so they can sign up for your course if they're a mariner or not.
Yeah, it's www.seafarersworldwide.com.
Thank you. And yeah, the website is really pretty and there's a lot on there. You have a lot of courses, and the blog was interesting too. I read a couple articles.
Great. Oh, and I did just want to point out too, we just uploaded a new self-guided course, getting started in the maritime industry. So if you're not sure about maritime career or where to start, you can take this free 20-minute self-guided course, and we'll talk about the different positions on board a ship, the different types of ships that you could work on, and the first steps on how to get there.
Cool. And I would encourage that to anybody in high school, because when you're right out of college, I looked into this. I didn't commit. I didn't dive into the water, but this is something that's really fun. And I know a lot of people that did work on cruise ships. And so anybody in high school, I would encourage you to take this 20 minutes
for free.
Yeah. Work exercise. What'd you call it? Guide?
It's a self-guided online workshop.
Okay. Self-guided workshop. Anybody in college, I would encourage you to take the 20-minute self-guided workshop as well, because traveling around the world while getting paid is incredible. And yeah, you work hard on ships. I think people that work on cruise ships work 6 to 7 days a week, but I know a lot of people, and as Elisabeth shared earlier, she lived in several other countries and spent Hawaii 6 months. All over. You really went all over the world. That's so cool.
All over.
And so that's a really incredible way to get to know yourself, to travel the world. When that opens up, someday it'll come back. So check it out. And once you have experience, it's much easier to go back. And I know other people that they would just take a 3-month job on a cruise ship or a 6-month job on a cruise ship. And so once you have experience, then you have that in your back pocket, and you can just, I have a couple months off, or I'm going to take a break. I'll go do this and travel the world that way while you're in between jobs, in between semesters. Maybe you're doing a life change. And so it's something that's really fun that you can lean back on at any point in your life.
Absolutely. It's a great way to see the world, a great way to pay for school, if that's what you want to do. It's a wonderful, wonderful life choice.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's right. I do know a couple people that paid for school that way. They would do cruise ships during the summer, and then they would come back and they would do their full 2 semesters and then cruise ship during the summer.
Yeah. It's a good way to get some extra cash. A good way to see the world.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great day, everyone.